Lily, do you know how a rosé wine is made?
I know one way that rosé is made, and it is with skin contact or maceration.
Skin contact or maceration. Well, there are actually 4 ways at least for a rosé wine to get made, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm Rob Linhart.
I'm Lily Margolis.
And welcome to Hazel's Flight School. So, Lily, you mentioned skin contact or maceration as a way to make a rosé, right? Can you guess which one of these may have been made in that method?
Ooh, well, based off of color, I would guess that this darkest one has had the longest skin contact because my intuition I would guess that the longer the skin is in contact with the rest of the wine, the darker the color. But I'm gonna guess that that is not true, and this is not actually the skin contact wine.
Well, actually, it's not a trick question, and you're basically right.
Okay.
Now, part of the reason for that with the color, with very few exceptions, red wines make white juice, and the way you get the color in the glass is by getting that skin contact and getting the color compounds to come out of those skins and into the wine. So you're actually quite right.
Not a trick question.
Not a trick question. But there are other ways of making rosé. For starters, you can simply blend white wine and red wine. Totally legit, and many rosés get made that way. You can also simply bleed off some of the juice that you're going to use for making a red wine. They call that saigner in France, or literally bleeding. And what you're doing is making a red wine, but some of that juice is coming off, and you want to take that juice because you like that juice, and you want to make a very light pinkish wine with that. And so you bleed that off and you ferment that separately. Voila, rosé. There's another method where basically you're growing red grapes, but you only want to make a rosé, in which case you do direct press, which is really the same as making a red wine. You're going to press all that stuff out of those grapes, but then you're going to keep that juice away. So they tend to pick up more color when you do it like that, but no maceration. So as you can see, there are a lot of different ways to make rosés here. Any other questions before we get started with tasting?
You know, I'm gonna guess that if somebody hears you saying that you can make a rosé by blending red and white, they're gonna try it at home. Is that a good idea?
Not necessarily a bad idea, actually. In fact, I know there are some restaurants out there that kind of play with that idea a little bit. Yeah, they bring white and red wines to the table and they kind of blend it up. Now, I haven't experienced that personally, but it's definitely a thing and it's totally legit. So actually, if you wanted to try that at home, I say go for it. You might surprise yourself and get something really good out of that practice. All right, let's dive in. So we're gonna start with a really fun, summery, slightly spritzy style of rosé called Txakolina or Txakoli. And this is coming out of the north of Spain. Very specific grapes. We're up in Basque Country, and these wines can be fun, fruity, and again, a little spritzy. Let's see what you think. First thoughts?
I love the bubble size. Love the bubble size, some green pepper flavor, some peach flavor. It's the perfect summer rosé, super well-rounded. I'd be excited to have a glass of this.
I really like this too, and that pepper note on this one is so there. A little bit of pickled pepper, a little bit of green bell pepper. Maybe not so usual for these, but if you're interested in trying that one, I'd say don't let it put you off. It puts a nice little interesting, sort of a summery kick to the wine. Yeah, I really quite like it. I think maybe just a tiny bit of sugar as well, but just makes it a little tangy to play with those bubbles, and good acidity. And most good rosé will actually typically have some nice good acidity, crisp or tangy. Keeps them very refreshing.
And playing off the little bit of sugar comment on the Rezabal, does the color of these rosés correlate with how sweet they are?
Not necessarily. And in fact, most of the time, no. The color, as we said before, with maceration, like we're making a red wine, the color comes from the skins, should not be taken as an indication of the sweetness or dryness of the wine. That's a winemaker's decision to decide how much sugar to leave in the wine or ferment away to alcohol. What you will tend to find, however, and we'll discover that when we get here, I think we'll find that when we do see more color, we do see more depth, we do see more fruit, however.
Okay.
But we'll let our taste buds decide. All right, next up. Now I would say right out of the gate for my nose, this smells a lot like what most people I think of when they think of rosé.
Yes, this is definitely a classic rosé.
Yum. Now we're not sure what the method being used here is, but boy did they get a lot of depth. Great big fruit. What's your take?
Watermelon, lime, super silky mouthfeel.
Yeah. Watermelon, strawberry. This is a big, round, full-bodied style of rosé too. This would pair really well with a lot of foods, light and mid-weight foods. This kind of rosé would go a long way. Refreshing. Yeah, it kind of makes me want to get more of it. But we'll stick to our guns here, and we'll move on to the third wine here. Now, this wine, technically, we are not going to call this a rosé, but it does demonstrate how dark you can get a wine with minimal skin contact, and that's what we've had here. We haven't had a lot of skin contact, so the producer's calling this a rosso, but it's kind of splitting the difference here, to be honest.
So I've seen a lot of labels that have rosso, rosato, and rosé on them. What's the difference between those labels?
Got it. Rosso is definitely just Italian, most likely, for red. Rosso is just a word for red. Rosé is French for pink.
Right.
Rosato, rosat, these are other words. Rose is the key. Think pink when you see that word. When you see rosso, think red.
Okay.
I'm gonna give this a shot. I can't wait. Yeah.
Definitely much richer flavor right away.
What do you notice on the palate?
A little bit tannic.
Yeah, some grip there.
Yeah, more berry flavor. Maybe some cranberry and plum standing out for me.
She's got a great nose, great palate. Good stuff. For me also, just a little bit earthy and just a slight little bit of something herbal as well. But we're splitting hairs on these things, and everybody will get that, as you know, a little differently. But I do like that grip, that structure, and that is something you can expect in rosés that get more dark, that have more extraction. When you're extracting color, you're also extracting some of those structural elements like tannins. So don't be surprised if it's a little grippier, certainly a bit fuller bodied on average. Oh, but yeah, great depth, really good concentration in the fruit. Delicious.
And circling back to labeling wine questions, I know that orange wine is also created through skin to contact. And there are some similar tones that you'll see between rosé and orange wine. So I was wondering, what is the true distinction between a rosé and an orange?
Well, a rosé wine is a wine that's made using red grapes in some way. Either you're blending to get the color in there and get the flavor, or you're working with red grapes to get that pink wine. Orange wines are made from white grapes, but the skins do have some color and other compounds in them. So with an orange wine, what you're really doing is you're making a white wine in the style of a red, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
So quick, basic take on rosé, and always remember, just because it's pink doesn't make it sweet. Most good rosés will very much be on the dry side of the line. If you come to us and you ask for a rosé, we will always steer you to dry rosés unless you specify otherwise. Special thanks to Neyah Margolis and Stelvio for providing us with the wines and expertise for today. I'm Rob Linhart.
I'm Lily Margolis.
And thanks for joining us again with Hazel's Flight School.
Follow us and subscribe on YouTube.